S. Chan presents educational video lectures as per the AICTE curriculum. Difficult concepts made easy. Study anywhere, anytime.
Dear students, in the previous video we discussed about prepositions, redundancies, clichés and how to remove them, how to avoid them in our language to achieve more accuracy and improve our vocabulary. Now in this video we are going to discuss basics of sensible writing, how to make a writing sensible, how to introduce, how to conclude, what are the different kinds of writing and why do we need to understand the different kinds of writing so that we achieve clarity in writing as well. So we are going to focus more on the writing skills here. Hello students, welcome to S. Chand Academy. I am Dr. Vidushi Bhardwaj. If you wish to learn more about vocabulary building, sentence construction, all the technicalities of grammar, reading comprehension, parts of speech, sentence construction, you may refer to English for Engineers, which is a wonderful book which will cover all the aspects we have already discussed. And of course, the book has a lot of examples where you can practice and this will help you improve your vocabulary as well. The ebook link of this book has been given in the description box. You can refer to it. Let us start with the basics of sensible writing. So, to proceed with nature and style of sensible writing, first of all, what do you mean by writing and what do you mean by sensible writing? Sensible, as the name suggests, anything that makes sense, anything that helps us achieve the desired results would be termed as sensible writing. So, any piece of writing based on acting on good, something that has a lot of meaning attached to it, any piece of writing which tells a lot about the practical ideas for understanding. It not only shows the readers, author's setting and characters, but also pulls them into hear and taste and smell and touch. So sensible writing grabs or holds the attention of the reader to go further and delve deeper into the written material. It is something which has a lot of meaning attached to it. So let us proceed ahead with the different types of sensible writings, if we have to say. So what are the different types? We have something which is known as expository writing. We have the second category, which is narrative writing. The third category is known as persuasive writing and the fourth one is descriptive writing. Now, what is expository writing? Expository writing is something which exposes, which tries to expose, into something deeper. So, all articles or even research material, whatever we are writing to write a thesis or probably a research article is a part of expository writing. So, all scientific writings, news, textbooks, they would be termed as expository writing. Then we talk about the narrative writing. Now, again, the name is self-explanatory. Wherever we have to narrate certain things, especially in terms of stories or even novels, plays, anecdotes, that will be termed as narrative writing. Even the poem we write or the kind of creativity we show in our writing skills when we are trying to narrate our own story, diary writing or writing journals, it's all a part of narrative writing. Now, the form of writing, it is something which is, the purpose of narrative writing is to inform or to entertain. Or if I have to be very specific, the purpose of narrative writing is to give delight and some kind of entertainment to the readers. So if we write a poem or a novel or a story which actually entertains the readers, that will be a part of narrative writing. Then comes the persuasive writing. Persuasive itself means to persuade or to motivate somebody to do something. So remember, persuading is not forcing. Persuading is to convince somebody to do something. So all those academic or official papers or probably even our cover letters, our emails or editorial newspaper articles, advertisements which we are writing so that the receiver will take some action after reading these things is a part of persuasive writing. So the writer's goal is to change the mind of the readers here so that some action can be taken. It's a very important part of writing, especially in official correspondence. So descriptive writing, the purpose of descriptive writing is only to describe certain situations or people or some kind of element so that the reader can be amused, or probably he can get some information about the whole description. Then moving ahead, what is expository writing? We have already discussed though, but still in detail we have certain examples. We have scientific writings, we have articles based on any particular topic, we have news, we have textbooks. So if we are trying to explain a concept, logically speaking, and it's not only about my opinion or the writer's opinion which is important here, it's about the facts, some kind of figure, some kind of material which has a lot of logic, where I can probably prove my point to the readers, will be a part of expository writing. Then narrative writing, the stories, anecdotes, poems, all different kinds of plays. It's a longer piece of writing actually. So when we read Wordsworth's poem Daffodils, it's narrative writing. The poet is trying to narrate his own experiences as a romantic poet. So all narrative writing, of course, uses narrative style. They are not only trying to impart information, but they are trying to communicate the story. Now, this narrative writing, of course, may not follow the rules of writing necessarily or strictly, I would say, because when something is in the mind of the poet, it's going to be a very spontaneous overflow. It may not have the logical narrative structure which the writer may follow. Same is the case with the novels and the plays we read, right? So they may have their own structure because it's totally subjective on the writer who is writing these narrative pieces. Next is persuasive writing, as already discussed also. Anything which is used to convince or probably to motivate the person to take an action is a part of persuasive writing. So when you as students, when you are in a good job, you're trying to write mails to your authority so that some action can be taken in your office, that will be a part of your persuasive writing. So all formal emails, okay, formal report writing, and even your complaint letters to your authority will be termed under persuasive writing. And there is a lot of rule and legalities involved with persuasive writing that we have to understand, because formal email writing is something which of course has a form and content. If we do not follow the rules of writing, these cover letters or complaint letters or email correctly and accurately, of course, the repercussions may be very harsh. So what is descriptive writing? It's a literary device. It's usually used in poetry or all the literature. So when a poet, if we have to quote an example, where the poet is saying, Wordsworth in Daffodils, if he says, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. So the poet is trying to describe his experience with nature when he was wandering, in the midst of nature, and he was enjoying the show. So this process provides the readers with description of people, nature, places, events, and the use of suitable details will definitely mesmerize the readers. That is what descriptive writing is all about. So author will use descriptive writing to create some sensory details as a means of enhancing the experience. So when the poet, is trying to explain his experiences when he was amongst the nature, we also feel that we are a part of the scene and we are also a part of the scenario where the poet was amongst the daffodils. And in the last stanza, when he says, for oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude, and then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. Now, these are the lines from Daffodils by William Wordsworth. Same lines are again descriptive in nature, because I, as a reader, would feel that I am the poet myself. So, it is very, very effective in nature. It is something which, of course, needs a lot of practice, But yes, it can be achieved by everybody, but it needs something which we call as a passion. So you have to be a passionate writer for this. Now, any piece of writing, which is a sensible piece of writing, has to have a lot of evidence. Evidence, which means some kind of proof. Evidence is a literary device that appears in different categories of essays and theses, especially in academic writing. When we say evidence is important, so when we are writing a thesis or a research paper or any kind of project report, we need to have an evidence as to whether this data was collected by the students, some kind of questionnaire was drafted. So we interviewed a few people when we were drafting this report, and then that is how we took the data, we analyzed the data using certain tools, and that is how we came up with the results. So this kind of a project report with a lot of evidence will have a lot of meaning attached to it. So this evidence necessarily is used in essays, some theses, some research papers, which gives weight to your writing. Then there are different examples from the literature also. I have already discussed in one of the poems by William Wordsworth. Then there are plenty of examples, educational paragraph. This is an educational paragraph where we have the evidences. So wherever we have the quotations, basically, where we are taking directly from the text verbatim, that means we are attaching evidence from the text, that we have read the text and we are attaching more value to what we are trying to say is evidence. And it's very important when we are writing, because that shows that we have paid attention to the actual text, and we are not simply googling from here and there and finding out from here and there, and we are trying to read the actual text when we are trying to convey our point of view. So evidence plays a very important role in sensible writing. So in any essay, article or book or whatever we are writing, introduction plays a very important role. So how do we design this introduction so that the readers also feel interested in what we are writing? So the introduction typically describes the scope of the document. What is it all about? What does it mean? What are we trying to say? That topical introduction is important. So there is no formula that is there to write a good introduction as such, but in general, an introduction should contain the following. Now, what is that? Number one, an introduction should attract the reader's attention. So when we are writing about, for example, globalization or some kind of impact of COVID on education sector, so how do we introduce the topic is very important, so that I as a reader should be interested in reading further about the topic. So some kind of a hook, some kind of a teaser, some kind of a temptation, so that I am inclined towards reading that essay, is known as introduction. The topic has to be focused in the introduction, where I can probably, introduce the topic in 1 or 2 lines, and then we can proceed. Some kind of background information can be given about the topic in introduction, so that I can know the context of the topic as a reader as well, right? And I can know that as a reader or as a writer, what should be the motive of the writer while he wrote this introduction or an essay. Then the thesis of the discussion has to be written in the introduction. A thesis statement is a very important statement in a sentence that clearly and specifically states the topic and purpose of mentioned research work. Especially when we write abstract in a research paper, that has to be introduced in a way where it tells the reader about the purpose of the research paper. So that abstract is a thesis that starts with the thesis statement. So it is always included in the opening paragraph of a research paper, mostly the last sentence of the introductory paragraph containing the author's specific topic. So introduction, where you can start with the background, then you can always talk about a little more about the topic, building the context of the topic, giving some kind of evidence about the topic, and then moving ahead with the rest of the part. Let us see what do you mean by conclusion in any piece of writing. A conclusion is the chance to have the last word on the subject. That is your way of telling the readers that is how you conclude the entire topic, where you have introduced, you have given the content, and entire conclusion has to be a natural outcome of whatever has been discussed above in the essay or whatever piece of writing you have opted for. So conclusion is the final say on the issues. That is something which motivates the reader probably to go back to the topic. That should be very interesting. That should be a final, gist of the essay. That is the one where you can probably add certain new things as well, but more or less it has to be the concluding or the summary of the essay. So it gives you the gist of the essay, it gives you the significance of the essay. So if you talk about again the fact that what was the impact of COVID-19 on education sector, so the conclusion has to be the one where you can talk about all those little points which you mentioned in the essay already, and then you can conclude with maybe 1 or 2 lines after the paragraph that yes, COVID-19 was a great learning experience for all of us as well. Though we lost our dear ones, we were not keeping well, but it has come with like a cloud with a silver lining, I would say. So then you can of course ask readers to know, to probably you can give certain sentences where the readers are prompted to think more. So it can contain a question mark for the readers whether they have any more queries. So always leave conclusion with a new idea so that readers can probably search further or probe further into what can be done in this area further. So conclusion should make readers glad for having that piece of writing. They should appreciate that whatever has been written above is something which is going to add to the existing pool of their knowledge. They should feel that they have learned something new. It can definitely interest the readers, and it is something that opens vast areas for more learning. So that is how we should design our piece of sensible writing, whether that's expository writing or descriptive writing or even academic writing or whatever we are talking about. So if you keep these things in your mind and you practically start writing, this is going to help you a lot. So in this video, we discussed in detail about the basics and essentials of sensible writing, whether that's expository, descriptive, or even narrative writing. So we discussed about how to introduce the writing, whether that's an essay or an article. We discussed about how to build up the content and how to conclude effectively. If you wish to learn more about vocabulary building, sentence construction, all the technicalities of grammar, reading comprehension, parts of speech, sentence construction, you may refer to English for Engineers, which is a wonderful book which will cover all the aspects we have already discussed. And of course, the book has a lot of examples where you can practice, and this will help you improve your vocabulary as well. The ebook link of this book has been given in the description box. You can refer to it. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe to our channel and press the bell to get updates about the future videos.
All rights reserved. This video has been prepared for educational purposes only. No part of it may be reproduced or copied without the permission of the copyright holder.